Welcome to World Wrap, your global snapshot for Friday, May 30th, 2025. Here's what's happening around the world. Gaza Crisis. UN officials decry intensified bombardment and looming famine risk as diplomatic efforts continue. Tobacco takedown. WHO praises Indonesia's bold reforms to curb youth smoking and e-cigarette use. Economic crossroads. Russia's war economy shows superficial growth but faces unsustainable foundations with soaring inflation and labor shortages. Tech shift. China's tech giants reportedly accelerate switch to homegrown AI chips amid U.S. export controls. And later, Hong Kong and Saudi Arabia deepen financial ties with new cross-border products. In Southeast Asia, public health is in focus as the World Health Organization today hailed Indonesia's new regulations aimed at curbing tobacco and e-cigarette use, particularly among youth. The measures include raising the minimum purchasing age to 21 and banning single-stick cigarette sales. The WHO is urging Indonesia to now consider standardized packaging. On a more troubling note, a new report highlights the plight of hundreds of thousands of victims trapped in cyber scam compounds across the region, facing brutal conditions and forced labor, with rescue and repatriation efforts proving slow and complex. In China, major technology companies are reportedly accelerating their transition to homegrown artificial intelligence chips. This move comes as they face a dwindling stockpile of advanced NVIDIA processors due to tightening United States export controls. The shift underscores Beijing's push for self-sufficiency in critical semiconductor technology. On the international front, Chinese automotive firm Seres was invited to the ASEAN-China GCC Economic Forum, which opened in Kuala Lumpur earlier this week, aiming to strengthen economic and trade cooperation. Across Africa, the Economic Community of West African States, or ECOWAS, is marking its 50th anniversary this month, but the milestone is overshadowed by significant security challenges. The withdrawal of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger earlier this year has raised questions about the bloc's future and its ability to address instability and conflict in the Sahel region. The African Union and ECOWAS have reaffirmed their commitment to strengthening partnerships through preventive diplomacy and joint peace support operations. The African Development Bank recently released its 2025 African Economic Outlook, projecting resilient short-term growth for the continent, with an estimated increase from 3.3% in 2024 to 3.9% in 2025, despite global headwinds. East Africa is projected to lead this growth. In Australia, debate continues around the nation's green iron strategy as China aims to reduce emissions in its steel industry, presenting both challenges and opportunities for Australian exporters. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese's government, which secured a second term earlier this month, has reiterated its commitment to climate action, including a net zero by 2050 target, and is campaigning with Pacific nations to host the COP31 Climate Summit in 2026. Across the Pacific, cruise tourism is seeing promotional activity, with Oceania Cruises offering significant savings on 2027 sailings. In the Middle East, the humanitarian crisis in Gaza remains dire. The Palestinian Center for Human Rights reported on May 26 that Israeli forces were intensifying bombardment and killings of displaced civilians, alongside the systematic destruction of neighborhoods. United Nations officials, including the Special Coordinator for the Middle East peace process, continue to stress that there cannot be sustainable peace without a resolution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict built on mutual recognition and rights for all. An upcoming high-level international conference in June aims to advance a two-state solution. Elsewhere, Hong Kong and Saudi Arabia are deepening financial ties, considering more cross-border financial products. This week, an ETF tracking Saudi government bonds began trading in Hong Kong, with Sharia-compliant Sukuk bonds and REITs also in the pipeline. Saudi Aramco is also reportedly continuing to raise debt to fund its expansion. In the United Kingdom, Bank of England. Governor Andrew Bailey today welcomed the UK government's recent efforts to forge closer ties with the European Union, emphasizing the need to minimize the negative effects of Brexit on trade. This follows a recent UK-EU deal improving e-gate access for tourists and easing trade for farmers. In domestic politics, Chancellor Rachel Reeves is facing scrutiny over upcoming government-wide spending reviews, which are expected to be very tough with potential real terms cuts to several departments. Meanwhile, Analysis of Russia's war economy indicates that while official GDP figures showed growth in 2024, this is built on unsustainable foundations. Massive state funding for the war effort is leading to widening budget deficits, soaring inflation, reaching 9.5% year-on-year by late 2024, critical labor shortages, and the deterioration of essential public services as civilian needs are subordinated to military goals. The central bank has raised its key interest rate to 21% in response. Across Latin America, economic growth is projected to slightly accelerate in 2025, though this masks slower growth across most individual countries. Downside risks include potential U.S. tariffs and reduced remittance flows. However, inflation across the region is generally forecast to decline. In Brazil, President Lula continues to call for multipolarity and reform of multilateral bodies, particularly as Brazil hosts the UN climate meeting COP30. The country is also a significant player in the region's approach to relations with China, its main trading partner, while also seeking friendly ties with the U.S. An opinion piece in the Straits Times today notes that, in Latin America, carrots trump sticks and China knows it, highlighting the complex geopolitical and economic dynamics at play. In culture and tech, Hong Kong is seeing a reboot of classical ink art, blending traditional techniques with contemporary themes. In global business, Elon Musk is reportedly leaving his short-lived role in a U.S. government advisory position to return his focus to his numerous business ventures, including Tesla and SpaceX, which face their own unique challenges. That's World Wrap for Friday, May 30th, 2025. Like and follow us for more daily updates from around the globe. See you next week.